Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're checking out some MidRange Abyss. MidRange Abyss has been popping up a little bit here and there. I personally still find it to be one of the weaker decks overall for sure. At first I tried it, I was like cool, seems to work pretty well. Few games in, you're like, oh, now it's like I've been hit by a truck and I just can't get anything going at all. So there isn't too much to say about the deck overall. It's a lot of okay little removal cards sprinkled in with some good damage cards, obviously some good value cards, and then some things that just kind of storm your opponent down while also generating some value. The big legendaries being Agave, 7 damage split between all followers is an okay form of removal, but the 3 damage to both leaders, you're mainly looking for that 3 damage on an opponent. Taking it yourself does kind of hurt, especially with very limited healing options, with only Ceres really being a substantial heal and Cerberus being a minor heal as well. To be honest, both pretty minor. Ceres is like barely better if you super evolve it, but then you're wasting a super evo on the Ceres. We'll get there one day, you know. And then obviously Medusa being one of your big cards. If you can drop this and it sticks, you do just win the game. If they can't deal with Medusa, she hits you 3 times, you're pretty much dead from any position. It's massive amount of damage all at once. Things like Shadow Crypt work well for generating your cemetery shadows and then obviously destroying into 2 ghosts. Can also combo pretty well with things like Soul Predation and Reaper Death Slash for equal trading. Works out pretty nicely. So we're going to get right into it and check it out. So first up we have a match against Swordcraft. This matchup is very swingy, typically. I find that it can be hard to get going sometimes, so you've kind of got to hope that Swordcraft bricks a little bit. If they perfect curve you, there's not a lot you can do because you are forced into trading a lot, which isn't great. We start off with a pretty okay hand. Wish it was a little bit better. They end up curving onto the 1-2, which is also pretty good for them. Luckily, we can counter that with the 2-2 ward, which should eat up most of the damage off that card. We then get Little Miss Bone. I love Little Miss Bone Mancer. She's great, honestly. The amount of bodies she generates are insane, so it's quite valuable, especially when it comes to flooding board. We don't have a lot going on here, unfortunately. We do need to take out more of their board, which forces us into the Reaper Death Slash, as our main form of removal, and then Soul Predation for more draw. Really just looking for anything that can help us out here. We do end up finding it. Like, the Eternal Hunter here isn't actually awful. It does clean up board. Authoress with the Evo also cleans up board, so making it a little bit better for this situation, especially now that Crown's on board. We kind of want to be saving our big removal to deal with a wider board. But as you can see, we still haven't actually got any damage on face yet, so we really need to start doing that by the time we get to the mid game here. Because if we don't start doing some damage, we are going to be in a bit of trouble. Especially when they're dropping, you know, massively wide boards that I have to deal with. Fortunately, we do end up dealing with this pretty fine. We end up just using the Reaper Death Slash here, taking out the 3-3, leaving up our board and hoping that maybe we can get some more damage in. They go for the Shinobi Squirrel Evo. That's a fair trade-off here. They're going to get quite a bit of board presence, but they aren't really going to do a lot else. Unfortunately, we're 1 play point off Cerberus. Not that it would be super usable here right now, so we do just decide to go for way more damage. I end up using the Devious Lesser Mummy with Super Evolve for the 5 damage, plus our already existing 5 damage, putting them on just 10 for this turn. Unfortunately, they don't end up having a way to kill me here. They go for the Geno, which is going to get them a partial clear, but they are only going to be able to take out 2 things. With that, they need to then follow up by taking out more things with the Skrills to have a chance, but they end up just sending it all to face and leaving up exact lethal on board with an Evo, giving us game. I think Cerberus follow-up also would have probably gamed them, so it didn't end up making a huge difference, but definitely not what you want to do playing Sword, leaving up followers on the enemy board. So that previous game showed how fast you can kind of snowball a board. Hey, you can really build up stuff really quickly and go wide with your own followers. This time we're going to be playing against Rune. We try to mulligan for our low cost cards, try to get some early presence against Rune since they are on the slower side of decks. This is where the mid-range deck can really benefit and take a little bit of a lead. The only real problem is, when I come up against Rune, by the time they get to Kun, I am in a little bit of trouble. If I don't have a good amount of damage on them, by the time they are dropping Kun onto board, we usually run out of steam before we can really do anything. Now, the Bellringer plus the Predation there is a really nice play. Being able to get 3 draws off the 1 follower isn't a bad little bit of value. So we end up just setting up the Bone Mancer. Really nice little play. Great card. We do need to generate a little more value though, so that we can really do stuff. So we go for the second Bone Mancer with Evo this time. This way we can take out one of their 2/2s, mitigate how much damage we're taking to face, while also just developing our board as much as we can. We've also generated 4 Shadows, which does make Orthrus and Devious Lesser Mummy both live. So either one of those becomes a solid next play. I end up just going for the Hound and end up spreading out our Evo here on the Skeleton to go for some damage. I could have got a little bit more damage by Evoing the Wolf, but then I would have also had to take 3 myself, and given that I'm already on 16, that's not a place I was really comfortable taking damage. The Rune player does decide to go for some healing, along with dropping their own Clay Golem with a Evo to try and take out the 3/3. So this time we're on our 6th turn. I end up going for the Ghost Summoning from the Cemetery, just to take out that, and then go for a Devious Mummy play with Evo. Again, a good 5 damage on the Super Evo on Devious Mummy. Really nice amount of damage you can get with it, allowing us to deal a total of 9 for the turn. Setting up really nicely for a potential Cerberus kill in the following turn. So they do drop the Kun, but we've already got them to 8, so they're at a point now where it's not really feasible for them to outdo my damage. It becomes very difficult when we're going into our Cerberus next turn. We end up getting Olivia, but Cerberus is still the play. We end up getting to keep a Skeleton, which is huge here. That definitely, with the boost from Cerberus, easily allows us to take the lethal. We went from being 1-off lethal to easily having it, without even having to do too much work. And we could have easily just full cleared either way and probably took him out next turn anyway. And our final match is an Abyss Mirror. So Abyss versus Abyss, there is 2 variants of Abyss. There's a more aggressive aggro Abyss style deck, and then there's the more mid-range deck that we're playing. Honestly, I'm not sure which one is worse at this point. I definitely do feel like Abyss is the weaker of all classes at this point. And I mean, its win rates clearly reflect that. That it's definitely on the weaker side of decks. So they do end up playing a more aggressive one, which does self-damage themselves to summon the Nightmare Incarnate. The Nightmare Incarnate is such a strong first turn card when you're going second. Being able to get that extra play point to drop a 3/3 to board that most things will struggle to easily deal with. We end up just getting some skeleton stuff to the board. Bone Man's a normal skeleton, hoping that we can at least stick something for a little bit until we can get to our Evo turn while we're taking this damage. Fortunately, I can just play the Reaper now for 4 play points, take it out, and at least have our skeletons developed, which actually is not too bad. Given that we're only 2 health down compared to where they're at, and we have 4 skeletons and they have to now play around those, we should be in a pretty nice spot overall. We also have the Orthrus Hound coming up. Now, I believe I might have been able to have done... Oh, no, I think this is played correctly. This one is played correctly. So I do manage to pull this off with Devious Mummy instead. I decided it's not worth going for the Orpheus Evo here when I can go for the Mummy Evo for more damage instead. I can just hold on to that and go for it next turn. I can even Soul Predation now on the extra skeleton. I had a couple of good ways to clear, and I feel like that one got us the most face damage, which is super valuable. Now, they are just at 8 health. They do evolve that skeleton, and then we both take 1 damage from the Balto Keris that they have, which actually allowed me to get a perfect lethal amount of damage. Thanks to Rage of Serpents and Mummy, we have exactly 7 damage in hand, and their self-damage, taking them from 8 to 7, gave us that exact lethal. So while my initial impressions of this deck were quite favourable, I ended up going 1 win, 1 loss, and 3 win streak. Every match after that was absolutely brutal. I believe we lost one and then went on a 5 losing streak before I decided to hang up the deck. It just, the consistency I didn't feel like was there for me. I couldn't get it to completely lock in and go. Definitely not a deck I would recommend crafting. I would recommend crafting almost any other deck from any other video at that point, and you'll have a better time than you will with this deck. But if you are set on Abyss and you want to try something different that, you know, maybe you've got the cards for already, you could definitely give it a go. Again, I wouldn't go out of my way to craft anything for this deck. You could probably even get away without running something like Olivia, but there's so many legendaries devoted to such a mid deck that just is probably the weakest to second weakest deck of the entire game. I just can't recommend it, but hopefully you guys at least enjoyed the video and the coverage. So we've covered every deck now, at least one variant of every deck as far as crafts go, and that's a pretty good start. We will have some more refined decks coming up, and hopefully a couple more budget decks thrown in. Budget decks are anything with 3 legendaries or less. That's how most budget decks are considered. Usually you focus on 1 legendary and then you have 3 of every other card. There will be some like Roach Forest that don't really need any legendaries, but for the most part that's typically the category for Shadowverse for budget decks. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, see ya.